And I'm thinking, is this a healing story where we just note that Jesus once again heals someone in the midst of all these other healing stories? Is this a mom story where we know that now this is how we know Peter is married, because he has a mother-in-law? It's kind of hard to have a mother-in-law if you're not married. I mean, I think that's how that works. Is this a buddy story? Is this one of those times when we know how Peter and Jesus are buddies? Because, you know, in the midst of the healing, you have all of these people coming to healing. You have Peter saying, "Come over to my house, come over to my house, come to my house, Lord." And yeah, my mom-in-law's not doing well, but you can come, you can be a part of it. Or is this a hospitality story where as soon as she's healed, notice that Peter's mother-in-law jumps up and starts to serve, which is interesting, because if I just was healed, I'm not sure I would have enough energy to want to jump up and serve these guys who just invaded my house. But hospitality is hospitality, right? Or is this a Jesus and a God story? Is this showing us more about who Jesus, who God is? And so I looked more carefully at this scripture, and here's what jumped out to me. Of all the people that Jesus heals in this chapter, no one asks him to heal Peter's mother-in-law. Peter doesn't ask. She doesn't ask. No one asks. No one asks Jesus to do anything except come into the house and be at home and sit and rest a while. And yet, when Jesus saw someone who was hurting, a friend in need, the family of a friend, he immediately, without being asked, reached out and healed. He took our infirmities and bore our diseases, according to Matthew, quoting from Isaiah. Jesus was, this is one of those instances where I think it shows us how human Jesus is, fully human. Because really, could you go into your best friend's house and see something that was wrong and not do something to try and set it right? If you had gone in and seen someone who was sick, you would have wanted to do something. The tender thing, the healing thing. Jesus, like us, just couldn't ignore the need right in front of him. I think this putting the need right in front of us, I know how human that is, because let's look at all of those commercials that they love to put right in front of us. All of those starving and hurt puppies and kittens. It's always the little cute ones that they show us to try and get us to go down to the pound or to send money in to help. Or they'll put starving children right in front of us on the news and ask for our money to help these people, these babies in another country. It's hard to ignore what's put right in front of us. The media, and we really noticed how powerful that tool was with Vietnam, when all of a sudden the war came into our living rooms every evening and people saw what was going on, and they saw what it meant to be at war. It's hard to ignore scared people, hurting people. It's hard to ignore their need. This happened to my mom this past couple weeks. When the order from the governor went out that everyone had to wear a mask, my mom, being a rule follower, immediately tried to figure out how to get a mask. And since she hadn't bought any, she couldn't find any to buy, she watched the Today Show and followed the directions on how to make a simple mask with a washcloth and rubber bands. And she followed those directions and she made herself a little washcloth mask and went off to do her errands. And the first stop she made was up at the post office because she needed to mail letters, because my mother is an inveterate correspondent, just like so many of us, so many people. I got my Mother's Day card from her, even though I'm her daughter. She still sends me a Mother's Day card now that I'm a mom, which she handmade. So yes, she has to send out lots and lots of cards and letters to people. So she went off and she mailed those. And in the parking lot, a lady approached her, not too close, social distancing, and said, ma'am, do you need a mask? I make them. And if you give me your address, I'll send you a mask. And Mom was like, oh, thank you. I don't have any way of making them. I gave my sewing machine to my granddaughter, not Jocelyn, her other granddaughter. And so she gave the lady her address, and the lady promised to send her some masks in the mail. And so my mom was so thankful, and she thought that was really neat that someone who didn't know her, a stranger, was willing to do that for her. And she was very excited. And she got in her car and she went down, and she had to go somewhere to pick up something, I don't know what. And she went into the store with her mask, and there was a lady there who was helping everyone, one of the store employees. And the lady said to my mom, ma'am, don't you have a regular mask? And Mom said, no, I have this. And some nice lady said she was going to send me some in the mail sometime, and we'll see, I'll probably get some in the next week or so. And the lady said, ma'am, I have this extra mask. And she pulled one out of her pocket. We get 2 masks every day, and I don't need my second one. Would you like my second mask? And my mom said, oh, thank you. And so twice in one day, strangers reached out to help my mom because they saw a need and they had to do something about it. Just like Jesus saw a need and had to do something about it. I want to ask, what needs are in front of us today? What needs do we see in the world? What needs do we see in our community? What needs do we see in our church, in our neighborhood? What needs do we see in our household and those that we are sheltering with? What needs are in front of you today? I know that for me, I see the need often for my husband just to have a chance to sit down and rest. I see the need for my kids to not get over anxious about schoolwork and stuff. I see the need for them to get outside and get away from me, or maybe that's my need. In our communities, I've seen a lot of people waving and honking and just being nice to each other. But I see the need at my local diner for people to buy food so they can stay open and deliver. We see the need in the grocery stores with all the empty shelves for people to be able to get food and to be good with each other and to take care and remain calm and work together. And more importantly, I see the need for people to have peace and assurance that this will not be this way forever. I see the need for people to know that God is in charge and that God is taking care of all of us and the world. I don't know if you've paid attention or noticed, but people are noticing all over the world how the earth has taken this time as a chance to breathe again, for the wild animals to play in the national parks where there's no people visiting, for areas to clean up. The air has cleaned up. You can see from India, the Himalayas, that they haven't seen in a generation. The smog over LA has lifted. There's a need, and the world is breathing. And we know that things are going forward. And evidently, for those who need sports, you can watch Korean baseball. Started yesterday. And there was another one, I can't even tell you, but it was some kind of wrestling kind of sport that came back on that people could watch if they wanted to. What needs are in front of you today? What has God given to you to do? How are you going to be God's hands and feet, God with skin on, and reach out and meet the need of someone you meet or someone you know? Is it to write that note and send it in the mail the way my mother did? Is it to make masks for people? Or is it just to give that word of comfort, that word of love, to say, Happy Mother's Day, or I appreciate you, or thank you for all that you do? What is it that will let you express God's love and God's caring in the world, in your house, and in the community? Think about it. And as you think about it, would you join me in singing I'll Fly Away? Oh boy. Now I have to find where I am. I can't see anything. There we go. Nope. I invite you to go into your week knowing that you are embraced by the love of God, a love that is sweeter and more tender than any you have known. Go in peace, hoping to see where there is a need that you can fill right in front of you, that God has placed on your heart, that God has placed in front of you so that you can spread that peace and love and assurance that comes from knowing that we are beloved children of God. Go in peace. If you have found this service meaningful, we will be meeting one more time, hopefully just one more time, please, God, by Zoom, until we can get together in our brick and mortar buildings. And you are welcome to join us. Tithes, offerings, and donations can be sent to any of our congregations or to the Lake Ontario Parish. Sue, if you'd put those addresses up on the screen for people to see. And I invite you to join us on the Facebook at the Lake Ontario Parish page. There we share our faith journey through this time. Again, happy Easter, and I hope to see all of you once again next week.